alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're seeing a big crowd, inshallah. Please make sure you stay until the end. We have plenty of food for everyone, so please stay until the end of the lecture of the Sheikh, then join us for dinner, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما أما بعد فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Last week, we spoke about the Yemeni king Dhu Nuwas and how he killed 20,000 believers in one day. Dhu Nuwas, thinking that he could hold on to his grip of Yemen, he killed those who believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He killed those who accepted the religion of Isa alayhi salam, because he felt that if they were allowed to live, if they were allowed to survive, then perhaps they would eventually put an end to his grip of power upon Yemen. So Dhu Nuwas, this Yemeni king, he ordered for ditches to be dug. And then he ordered the believers to renounce their religion. And when they refused to renounce their religion, he ordered for them to be thrown into these trenches or into these ditches, which were lit on fire. So he had his people dig these big ditches. He lit those ditches on fire. Then they went from person to person, asking them or ordering them to renounce their religion. And when they refused to renounce their religion, they were pushed into those ditches. Right? So this is what Dhu Nuwas, the king of Yemen, did. Dhu Nuwas was from a family of kings of Yemen. And his father was Tabban As'ad, who we spoke about earlier. Tabban As'ad, the father of Dhu Nuwas, was a good man. But this youngest son of Tabban As'ad, Dhu Nuwas, he was an evil oppressor, and he killed these believers, thinking that by doing this he would be able to hold on to his power. So it is said that he killed on that day, on that one day, he killed over 20,000 from the believers. He killed over 20,000 believers in one day. So he didn't spare anyone. He killed men, he killed women, he killed children, he killed babies. Right? He didn't spare anyone. But there was one person who was able to escape. There was one man who was able to get on a horse and escape. And they tried to chase him, but they were not able to catch up to him. This man was a man named Dos Tha'laban. A man named Dos Tha'laban got on a horse and he fled. So he was able to escape, and he decided to head towards Syria, to Sham. So they were in Yemen, and he decided to go north and head towards Sham. Why did he decide to go towards Sham? Because Sham was under the rule of the Byzantine Roman Empire. Sham, Syria, it was under the rule of the Byzantine Empire. And they were Christians. So this man, Dos Tha'laban, he thought that if I go and if I tell the Christian emperor, the Byzantine emperor, if I tell him what has happened, if I tell him what the king of Yemen, Dhu Nuwas, did to the Christians, just because of the fact that they believed in the religion of Isa alayhi salam, he slaughtered them brutally, he burned them alive. If I tell the powerful emperor of the Byzantine Empire about this, then for sure he will make sure that he punishes those who are responsible. He will send an army to Yemen, and they will hold Dhu Nuwas responsible for what he did. So this was the idea of those Tha'laban. I'm going to go up to Syria. I'm going to meet with the Byzantine emperor. And of course, the capital of the Byzantine Empire was Istanbul. But because Sham was under their territory as well, the Byzantine emperor would be in Sham a lot because the Christians considered that land to be a holy land, right? Philistine and Sham, they considered that to be a holy land. So the Byzantine emperor would spend a lot of time in Sham. So those Tha'laban, he fled from Yemen and he went to Sham, and he was able to meet the Qaisar. He was able to meet the Christian Byzantine emperor, who was one of the most powerful men in the world at that time, right? The most powerful empire in the world at that time was the Persian Empire, and the second most powerful empire was the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire was the second most powerful empire. So the Qaisar, or the ruler of the Byzantine Empire, he was perhaps only second to the Kisra in terms of his power in the world, right? So those Tha'laban goes and he meets the Qaisar, powerful Christian man, and he tells him what happened. He tells him that myself and my people, we accepted the religion of Isa alayhi salam. And because of that, the king of Yemen, Dhu Nuwas, he dug these ditches, he set them on fire, and he slaughtered all of the believers. I was able to escape, but he slaughtered everyone else. Right? So those Tha'laban, he informs the Qaisar about this. And just as those Tha'laban expected, the Qaisar, the emperor, he was very angry. How dare they do this to our brothers? How dare they do this to our fellow Christians? So the Qaisar was extremely mad. And he said, don't worry, we're going to do something about it. But then he felt that sending an army from Sham all the way to Yemen, that's a very far distance. He thought it would be more efficient if he sends a message to the Najashi. The Najashi was the ruler of Habasha, the ruler of what is modern day Ethiopia. And that was also a Christian empire. And it was a powerful empire as well, right? So the Byzantines and the Habashis, they were allies. They both followed the same religion. They were both Christian empires, right? So what the Qaisar decided to do, instead of sending an army himself from Syria to go to Yemen to take revenge on Dhu Nuwas, he decided to send a message to the Najashi in Habasha, because that's much closer to Yemen, right? And the Najashi would be able to send an army much quicker because of the distance being much shorter. So the Qaisar, the emperor, Byzantine emperor, he told those Tha'laban, he said, okay, I'm going to send a messenger of mine with you. I'm going to write a letter to the Najashi, the ruler of Habasha. I'm going to write a letter to him explaining what you just explained to me. And I'm going to send that letter with my messenger. You go with the messenger as well. And you guys can present this message to the Najashi, and he will take care of the situation. So those Tha'laban accepts this. He and the messenger that the Byzantine emperor sent, they head over to Habasha. They go to Ethiopia. And they meet the Najashi. And the Najashi, he reads the letter that the Byzantine emperor wrote to him, explaining what Dhu Nuwas, the king of Yemen, did to the Christians, explaining how he slaughtered the Christians in the most brutal way by burning them alive. And he didn't spare men, he didn't spare women, he didn't spare children, he killed infants even, right? So the Najashi, reading this, he became very angry. Like, how dare Dhu Nuwas, how dare this king of Yemen do this to our brothers and our sisters? So the Najashi, upon the instructions of the Byzantine Emperor Qaisar, Najashi mobilized an army of 70,000 soldiers. That's a massive army. You know, in that day and age, an army of 70,000 people, that is a very, very huge army. The Yemeni army was nothing close to this in terms of size, right? So Najashi, he sent a massive army of 70,000 soldiers to Yemen with the objective of capturing Dhu Nuwas and executing him and taking control of Yemen. That we're going to get rid of Dhu Nuwas, this person who killed all of these Christians, we're going to kill him, and we are going to take over Yemen. We're going to take over rule of Yemen. This was what the Najashi intended to do. So he sends his army, 70,000 strong army, led by the commander of that army was a man named Aryat. Aryat was the commander of the Habashi army of 70,000 soldiers. So he was the commander, Aryat, and another high ranking commander in the army. Aryat was the main commander, but one of the other high ranking generals within the army was a man named Abraha. And you're going to hear that name later on as well. Right? He was one of the generals basically in the army of the Najashi. So the commander, the main commander is Aryat, and Abraha is also a very high ranking official. So Aryat, with this army of 70,000 men, they come into Yemen and they easily defeat the Yemeni army. The army of Dhu Nuwas, they are obliterated very quickly by the army of Najashi. And Dhu Nuwas himself, he tried to escape. He tried to flee. He knew that there's no way that he could hold on to power, but he just wanted to save his life. So he fled and he went out to sea. He went on a boat and he went out to sea, but the Najashi's forces followed him into the sea. They said, "We want to get this person. This is the person who did what he did. We're going to capture him. We're going to kill him." They didn't want to let him escape. So they followed him into the sea. And when they were closing in on him, Dhu Nuwas realized that there's no escape. He's going to be captured. So what he decided to do was to jump into the sea and commit suicide, right? Because he considered it better to die than to be captured by the enemy. So he jumped into the sea and he committed suicide and he drowned. That was the end of Dhu Nuwas. And that was the end of Yemeni rule of Yemen. And remember, previously we spoke about the dream of one of the earlier rulers of Yemen, a man named Rabi'ah ibn Nasr. He had a dream that one day the Ahbash, that the Habashis, the people of Ethiopia, they're going to take rule of Yemen. He had this dream. So now that dream was realized. Now the Habashis, the Ethiopians, have taken control of Yemen, right? So that was the end of Yemeni rule of Yemen, and the Habashis became the new rulers of Yemen, and the leader, the ruler, was Aryat. Aryat, because he was the commander of that military, when his forces defeated the Yemeni forces, he became the ruler of Yemen himself. Aryat, this Habashi, he became the ruler of Yemen, right? He was a military commander, and now he has become the ruler of Yemen. Now, as we mentioned, the army of Aryat, it was a big army. There were 70,000 men, right? So these 70,000 men, they stayed in Yemen. They settled in Yemen, right? So now the Yemenis, the Yemeni population, they're still living in Yemen. And now a bunch of Habashis, 70,000 Habashis are also living in Yemen. And Aryat is the ruler of Yemen. So he's ruling his own people, his own army of Habashis, and he's also ruling Yemen in general. So he's ruling the Yemenis as well. Now, Aryat, sadly, was a very oppressive ruler. He became the ruler of Yemen, but he was a man of injustice and oppression. And it's not like he was only oppressive to the Yemenis. Rather, he was oppressive to the Yemenis, and he was also oppressive to his own people as well. The Habashis, his army of 70,000 who had settled in Yemen now, Aryat was oppressive to them as well. He was unjust towards them as well. Right? So there was a lot of unhappiness with the rule of Aryat. So Abraha, who was another general in the army, a high-ranking official in the army, right? He saw this as an opportunity. Look, the people are very upset with Aryat. He's oppressive, he's unjust, not only towards the Yemenis, but even towards his own people. So Abraha thought that he could get at least a good percentage of the military behind him to stage a coup against Aryat and to take power away from Aryat and to consolidate power for himself, right? So Abraha started making plans to do this. And he was very influential as well. He was a high ranking general in the army. So he spoke to other officials in the army, and he was able to gain a lot of support from within the army. A lot of soldiers defected from their loyalty to Ariyat, and they came on the side of Abraha. So now Ariyat came to realize what was going on, and he prepared those who were left in his army supporting him. He prepared that army to face Abraha and the soldiers who defected onto Abraha's side. So just imagine this. It's one army, but it is split now into two factions. One faction keeps their loyalty towards Ariyat, and the other faction, they defected and now they have become loyal to Abraha. And both of these factions of the army are ready to fight each other. So basically, what is it going to be? It's going to be a civil war. It's going to be a civil war within the Habashi army. And the Yemenis had nothing to do with this at all. The Yemenis are completely not involved in this at all. This is an internal matter within the Habashi army. So Ariyat has his soldiers and Abraha has his soldiers, and both sides prepare for civil war. But before any fighting would start, Abraha asked for one meeting with Ariyat. He said, I want to have a face to face meeting with you, just one on one, man to man. You put down your weapons, I will put down my weapons. We just need to talk. Maybe we can come to a resolution regarding this matter. So Ariyat said, okay, let's talk. I'll put down my weapons, you put down your weapons. So they both put down their weapons and they met face to face, the two of them. So Abraha, he proposes to Ariyat, he says to him, look, if we fight with each other, I have my soldiers who are supporting me, you have your soldiers who are supporting you. If we fight each other, definitely there will be casualties and losses on both sides. You will lose soldiers and I will lose soldiers. And that will make the Habashi presence in Yemen weaker. We're 70,000 now total. If you include your soldiers and you include my soldiers, it's 70,000. But if we fight with each other using our armies, and our armies fight against each other in this civil war, that 70,000 is going to become much less. The number is going to become much less. And what's going to happen if our numbers become much less? The Yemenis are going to see this as an opportunity to retake control of their land. And they may expel us and they may defeat us and get us out of Yemen. But now they can't do that because we're strong. We have such a big military. We have 70,000. But if it becomes much less, then the Yemenis, they may overthrow us and retake control of their land. So Ariyat, he said, yeah, that makes sense. So Abraha said, look, it's a lose-lose. Even if you win, even if you defeat me, you're still going to lose. And even if I defeat you, I'm still going to lose. So no matter who amongst us wins, it's going to be a losing situation overall. So Ariyat said, yeah, you're right. But what do you propose? What is the solution to this? So Abraha said, let our soldiers not be involved in this at all. Let this just be a one-on-one duel between you and me. And whoever wins gets to keep the whole army. Then we keep our strength and we keep our presence in Yemen. And we keep our power over Yemen. So Ariyat agreed to this. He said, okay, let's do it. One-on-one duel, the army is not going to be involved at all. So that's what they decided to do. So when the day came for the duel, it was Abraha versus Ariyat one-on-one. The fight starts. In the beginning, Ariyat seems to be getting the upper hand. He strikes with his sword and he's aiming for the neck of Abraha to kill Abraha. But Abraha was able to move at the last second. So he was able to avoid his neck being cut. But when he moved, his nose came in the way of the sword of Ariyat and his nose got cut off. Abraha's nose got cut off. That's why after that he became known as Abraha al-Ashram. Abraha al-Ashram. That means Abraha, the one with the cut off nose. Right? So he actually lost his nose. So in the beginning, it looked like Ariyat was getting the upper hand. But then as the duel went on, Abraha was able to get the upper hand. And Eventually, Abraha won the duel and he killed Aryat. Abraha killed Aryat. And after he killed Aryat, he became the new ruler of Yemen, and his army was intact, completely intact. No soldiers were lost, right? So Abraha became the new ruler of Yemen, and he still had a very strong army. So he had a strong grip upon Yemen. And Aryat is now out of the picture. All right. Now, eventually, news of this fight between Aryat and Abraha, it reached Habasha. It reached the Najashi, right? And when the Najashi heard about what happened, he was extremely angry. He was extremely angry. He said, I'm the one who appointed Aryat as the commander of my army. What gave Abraha the right to kill the one who I appointed as the commander of my military? So the Najashi, he took offense to this. He thought, look, this person, he killed the one that I appointed. So this is basically an objection to my decision. I am the one who put Aryat in his position. Who is Abraha to kill him? So he was very upset that Abraha did this. So he said, he swore, he took an oath that he himself would come to Yemen. He said, I swear my own feet will come onto the dirt of Yemen. My own feet will come onto the dirt of Yemen, and I will not leave until I take the hair of Abraha from his head. This was a type of humiliation that the rulers used to humiliate people when they wanted to punish them. They would cut off their hair. So he said, I'm going to come to Yemen myself. My feet will touch the soil of Yemen, and I will take the hair of Abraha to humiliate him for what he has done. So eventually, the Najashi's anger and this vow that he made, it reached Abraha. Abraha came to know, and Najashi started. He actually prepared his army, and he was coming towards Yemen. He was coming towards Yemen, and Abraha came to know that Najashi is coming. Najashi is coming to Yemen, and he said that he's going to take the hair of Abraha and he will make sure that his own feet come onto the dirt of Yemen. So Abraha heard this and he panicked because he knew that he would not be able to withstand the army of the Najashi. Right? He had 70,000 in his own army here in Yemen, but the Najashi had a much bigger army. Right? So he was afraid. He thought that Najashi might punish him. He might execute him. He didn't know what he's going to do. So he wanted to reaffirm his loyalty to the Najashi before the Najashi could come to Yemen. He wanted to make the Najashi happy, and he wanted to reaffirm his dedication to the Najashi. So what did Abraha do? Abraha, he took a container and he took some dirt from the ground and he put it in the container. Then he shaved his own hair off himself and he put it in a container. And then he sent a messenger. He said, before Najashi can come into Yemen, give him these two containers, one container with dirt from Yemen and one container with my hair. And he wrote a message as well. And he said, oh, Najashi, I am completely loyal to you. I didn't want to kill Aryat, but Aryat, he was being oppressive towards your own people. Not only towards the Yemenis, he was being oppressive to the Habashis as well. And the people, they were tired living under this oppression and this injustice. So I had no other choice but to do what I did. But I still remain completely loyal to you, ya Najashi. And I know you have made an oath that your feet will come onto the soil and to the dirt of Yemen. And I know you made an oath that you will take my hair. So you don't even need to come into Yemen, and you can still fulfill your oath. I have sent with you this container from the dirt of Yemen. Just step on it and you will fulfill your oath. And my hair, I sent it to you as well. So it worked. The Najashi actually was satisfied with this. He felt that this shows that, yes, he still is very loyal to the Najashi. He accepted this gesture and he allowed Abraha to stay in power. And he went back to Habasha. So now Abraha, he breathes a sigh of relief, like, okay, that crisis is averted, right? But still, he felt some uneasiness. He felt some paranoia now that, okay, maybe the Najashi, he's leaving it for now, but I don't know, maybe in the future he's going to come back and he's going to remove me from my position. So he felt this fear, right? He felt this paranoia that maybe things are okay for now, but I don't know how long this neutrality will last. Perhaps eventually the Najashi is going to come and he's going to want to get rid of me. So he decided to make another gesture to the Najashi. He wanted to show, like, I'm completely devoted to you, right? He wanted to basically kiss up more to the Najashi so the Najashi would be happy with him. So he decided to build a church in honor of the Najashi. Remember, they're Christians, right? So he decided to build a church in Yemen. And the purpose of constructing this church was to honor the Najashi, right? So he built a church, and the name of that church was Qulais, right? Very intricate, very dazzling, right? Something really over the top. He had this built in Yemen, this church, and it was called Qulais. And he sent a letter to the Najashi, and he said, in your honor, Ya Najashi, I have built this church, Qulais, and I'm going to order the Arabs to come and make pilgrimage to this church. I'm going to order the Arabs to make pilgrimage to this church in your honor, Ya Najashi. So the reason why Abraha did this was to make the Najashi more comfortable with him. If there were any lingering feelings or any lingering anger that he had, he wanted to get rid of all of this. So that is why Abraha had Qulais built this church. And he said, I'm going to order the Arabs to make pilgrimage to it to honor you, Ya Najashi. So Abraha, he started announcing and making proclamations. He said the Arabs must come and they should come to Yemen and they should make pilgrimage to Qulais to honor the Najashi. They should make pilgrimage to Qulais. So this announcement of Abraha, it reached the different Arab tribes. And most of the Arab tribes, or all of the Arab tribes actually, they laughed it off. Like, what does this guy think? We're going to go and make pilgrimage to his church that he built in Yemen? Right? The Arabs thought that this was a joke. There was one group of the Arabs that was known as Ahlun Nasi. Ahlun Nasi. The word Nasi, it means delay in Arabic. So Ahlun Nasi means the people of delay. These Arabs known as Ahlun Nasi, why were they called Ahlun Nasi? Because they were the ones who the Arabs used to consult in order to play around with the months. There are 4 months that are called Al-Ashhur al-Hurum, the sacred months. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم. Surely the number of months with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is 12 months that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained the day He created the heavens and the earth. And out of those 12 months, 4 are sacred. So those 4 sacred months, as the Prophet ﷺ explained to us, they are Rajab, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Al Muharram. Now Rajab, which is the month we're in right now, this is one of the sacred months. Rajab is on its own. It's 1 month that's on its own. But the other 3, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Al Muharram, they come consecutively. They come in a row, one after another. Dhul Qa'dah, then right after that is Dhul Hijjah, then right after that is Al Muharram. So 3 straight months, 3 consecutive months that are sacred months. And one that is separate, which is the month of Rajab. All right. Now, one of the rulings regarding these sacred months, and this was even something that was accepted during the times of Jahiliyyah before Islam, and Islam confirmed it, that there should be no starting of any wars during the sacred months. If you need to defend yourself, if there's an aggressor who has come on to you, then yes, you can defend yourself. But you're not allowed to start aggression. You're not allowed to start a war in the sacred months. So like the month of Rajab, for example, it's not allowed to start a war in Rajab or in Dhul Qa'dah or Dhul Hijjah or Al Muharram. All right. So that was something that was accepted by the Arabs even in the times of Jahiliyyah, even before Islam. And Islam also confirmed that you cannot start any war during the sacred months. All right. Now, the Arabs, they were known to fight a lot. They had a lot of wars. Some of the Arab tribes, their whole economy was based upon wars. Like, okay, our whole economy runs on going to different lands, going to different tribes and conquering them and taking the spoils of war. That was how they lived, right? Many of the Arab tribes, they were like that. So imagine 3 months in a row they're not allowed to fight. They can't fight in Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, or Al Muharram. 3 months in a row with no fighting. That was something very difficult for a number of the Arabs. So, in order to kind of get around this, there was a group of people who was appointed. They were known as Ahlun Nasi, the people of delay. And if they approved, then the month of Muharram and the month of Safar could be switched, could be flipped around. So if these people agreed, say, okay, we want to fight. So do you approve that we'll delay Muharram and we'll put Safar first? Right? Muharram is the first month of the Islamic calendar, Safar is the second. Right? So they would say, like, we want to switch. We want to, this year, just this year, we want to make Safar first and then Muharram after. Right? So they would consult the Ahlun Nasi, these people, these people of delay, and if they approved, then yeah, they would switch the months. They would just play around with the months like this if they wanted to fight, right? So they're playing games with the rules of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right? That's what they used to do. So the people who would do this, the people who they would seek approval to do this, they were known as Ahlun Nasi, Ahlun Nasi. All right, now these people Ahlun Nasi, they very strongly venerated the Kaaba. They had a great respect for the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though they were mushrikeen, right? They worshipped idols, and the Kaaba was full of idols. They had placed idols in the Kaaba, right? So they were mushrikeen. They were people who associated partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worshipped idols, but they respected the Kaaba. They had great honor and respect and reverence for the Kaaba. All right. So when they came to know that Abraha has built this place called Qulais in Yemen, and he wants people to come and make pilgrimage to it, like the people make pilgrimage to the Kaaba in Mecca, they said, okay, we're going to teach him a lesson. He thinks that he can make something that competes with the Kaaba. So one of the people from Ahlun Nasi, he goes to Yemen. He sneaks into Yemen. And in the night, he goes to Qulais, this church that Abraha had built. He goes there in the night and he uses the bathroom. He defecates, akramakumullah, right? And the excrement, the defecation, he takes it and he rubs it all over the walls of Qulais. He defiles it with his own waste in the night, right? Just to make a statement to Abraha that, what do you think? You think you can make something that competes with the Kaaba? You think the Arabs will make pilgrimage to this place like they make pilgrimage to the Kaaba? So he did this. And then in the morning, when the people saw what had happened, and Abraha was informed of what had happened, he was very, very angry. Who dared to do such a thing? So the person from Ahlun Nasi who did it, he didn't try to hide what he did. He was bragging about it, like, this is what I did, right? So of course Abraha came to know. And when he asked who is responsible for this, he was told it was someone from the Ahlun Nasi. And these people, the Ahlun Nasi, they have great reverence for the Kaaba in Mecca. So Abraha then said, okay, I will teach them a lesson. I will go with my army, my big army. I will go to Mecca and I will destroy their Kaaba. I will go to Mecca and I will destroy their Kaaba. Wal-iyadhu billah. So this was the plan of Abraha, and he wanted to do this as a revenge for the Arabs defiling Qulais, the church that he had built. So Abraha, he gathers a huge army, and in this army, he has an elephant as well. He brings an elephant along with this army, and the name of that elephant was Mahmud, right? So Abraha sets off with his army and with his elephant, and it's a big army. He has a big army. It's not a small army. He takes a huge army with him, heading from Yemen towards Mecca. And on his way, there were some of the Arab tribes who came to know. Abraha, he didn't keep this a secret. He made it clear that his intention is to take his army, go to Mecca, and destroy the Kaaba. So this was known. So some of the Arab tribes that were on the way, on the path from Yemen to Mecca, they decided that we will resist him. We will try to fight him, right? Out of their respect to the Kaaba, they didn't want to make an open path for Abraha to just come. So, so there was a small tribe that was led